feeling kind of lonely. I will now call to order the regular City Council meeting of July 25th, 2022. Members of the public are invited to attend in-person meetings in council chambers. Public access to the meeting is also available by telephone by using the call-in numbers posted on the meeting agenda. Meetings are broadcast on Channel 8 for Comcast and Xfinity subscribers and on the city's YouTube channel online. Joanna, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Leidy,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford,
Here.
Councilmember Whitkovich,
Here.
Councilmember Hadamio,
Here.
Councilmember Kondo,
Here.
Councilmember Lukeman Hiramasa will be absent, Councilmember Goff,
Here.
Councilmember Brown will be absent, and Councilmember Walker may be absent.
Okay, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Manager Guy, are there any responses to citizen inquiry?
Nothing this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? No? Okay. We will start with presentations. We love these. So Jenny Murphy, our Community Outreach Coordinator, is here to present the Neighborhood Beautification Awards for the month of July. So the council members that are here, if you'll join me down front. All right, go ahead. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council, both here and at home. My name is Jenny Murphy, and I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator for the wonderful city of Northland. The beautification program started in 1998, so 24 amazing years ago. Next year, we'll celebrate the big 25-year anniversary. The city of Northland's divided into 13 areas, and we have volunteers in each of those areas that select beautiful homes and yards in the months of June, July, and August. So I'm going to turn this direction just a little bit so I can face the audience here. We do have some of our guests here this evening, despite a very busy summer, pulling people away and some work and other activities too. But our first winner tonight is a Waterwise Yard of the Month, 1047 West 102nd Avenue, Manny and Juana Aragon. Next, we have Eleanor Chandler, and she lives at 10564 Carmela Lane, and that's a Yard of the Month award. If you're here representing or here tonight, come on up. Congratulations. You're welcome, you're welcome. And this is for his mom's home.
So you have to come
And also, Mayor, one of the yard signs. Oh, good, very good, sorry, apologize.
1, 2, 3. Again, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thanks so much for coming.
Also for you. Oh, this.
Our next Yard of the Month winner is located at 10721 Blue Jay Lane, and Nancy and Ed Crochet, and I know they're here with us. Come on up. Such a beautiful yard. Go right up this way.
Middle, maybe the middle, we'll do that.
Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, smile again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Nice to meet you both. Our next Yard of the Month winner is located at 10994 Steele Street, and this is Justin Durham and Janelle Pagan. They're not here this evening, but another beautiful yard in Fox Run. Our next Yard of the Month winner is with us this evening, and look at this yard, 789 Dean Drive, and this is Holly Dowling. Come on up.
One, two, three. Again. Last one. Thanks. Great job.
Beautiful, Holly. Our next Yard of the Month winner is located at 1120 West 100th Avenue, Jose and Ophelia Figueroa. And they are not here this evening, but this could actually be Waterwise or Yard of the Month. It's a beautiful yard. Our next Yard of the Month winner is located at 2862 East 107th Court. And the Foresters are not here this evening, but he was so excited. He said, "This is just an awesome award to receive. We're so honored. Unfortunately, we will not be able to attend this evening, but we do appreciate their hard work." Our next Yard of the Month winner is located at 10422 Carlisle Street, and this is Brian and Sharon Flores, and I don't believe they're here this evening. Congratulations. Our next Waterwise home is located at 821 East 112th Place. This is Lance and Kayla Fredrickson, a beautiful yard using very little water, so that's awesome. Our next Yard of the Month winner is located at 10929 Murray Drive, and this is Larry Montoya, another stunning home. Our next Yard of the Month winner is located at 129 Muriel Drive, Carol and John Mumby, and they were not able to be here tonight. And Yard of the Month winners again at 11538 Larson Lane, and this is the Peterson family, Roy, Shantae, and kiddos. And it's a beautiful yard. And many people drive down Larson, so we know that that's seen lots every single day. A Yard of the Month winner is Angela Ramirez at 11169 Park Vista Drive, and she's here. Come on.
One, two, three. Again. Last one.
you, Angela. Next, we have Yard of the Month at 10589 Varice Lane, a beautiful home and yard, Randy and Julie Shills. Come on up, Julie.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. And I'd like to get a couple angles. All right, thanks.
Thanks, Julie. Thank you. Keep up the great work. Tell Randy he's in trouble for not coming. All right, and last but not least, WaterWise Award goes to 11482 Carlisle Street, Andrea and Anthony Vallejo. Not sure they're here this evening, but another beautiful. And that concludes our July winners.
Thanks, Jenny.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jenny. Sure.
That's always fun. So now I want to go home and mow my lawn.
Yesterday it rained, it looks
I
great.
know.
It looks fantastic though.
Oh,
yeah,
is your new
precipitation.
grasses
Yeah.
doing
yeah,
well? All
yeah.
right, our second presentation tonight, the CPS HR Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Organizational Assessment Update. Tamara Dixon, our Director of Human Resources and Chief Diversity Officer, is here to introduce this item. Hello.
Hello, good evening, Mayor, Council on the TV. As an employee, I just have to say, I feel very grateful to work in an organization that is doing the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have been so fortunate over the past year to partner with CPS HR on this journey, and I'm really excited for you all to hear all of the things we've been doing over the last year. And here to share with you is CPS HR Project Lead, Jacques Whitfield. So I will turn it over to him.
Thank you, Tamara. Good evening, everyone. Honorable Mayor, members of the council, both here and virtually, city staff and friends. It's a pleasure to be with you today, and Tamara's right, we have been very busy over the last year. And so why don't we share with you some of the highlights of our engagement over the last year. I know all of you recognize this. This is from your website. And we love this image because it really is indicative of the essence of the work of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. We are all aware that DEI, the journey of DEI is not about politics. It's not about shame and blame. It's not a reboot of affirmative action. It's not, it is not just mere political correctness. We know that the work of DEI is all about engagement. It's maximum employee engagement so that we can create maximum team engagement, so that we can have maximum organizational engagement, so that we can have maximum community engagement and impact. And I love that image that your staff has created there because that really captures the essence of what this work is all about. I want to introduce you to the project team. I am Jacques Whitfield. I'm a principal consultant with CPS HR. I have been in the human resources management space for 25 years, and I've been doing diversity, equity, and inclusion work for that same period of time. This is my team. I drew straws and I won. So I get to come here and meet with you folks. But these are the folks who are both in Colorado and in California who are supporting this effort. So we have our senior practice leader, Regina Romeo. We have Deanna Hain, who's here in Colorado as our Colorado regional manager. We have Jeff Hoy, who's been really instrumental for organizational strategy, and his unit facilitated the DEI assessment that we're going to be talking about very shortly, and Paula North, who is on Jeff's team. And again, there's me. So I have the distinct pleasure of working all around the country. So in addition to working in the state of Colorado, I work in Texas, I work in Florida, and I work in Texas. So 4 different time zones, never a dull moment. And this is one of my favorite places. I have to tell you, it's always a delight when I get to come and spend time with your team. So this I just wanted to share with you. This is our approach to DEI. So many folks feel that DEI is limited to, is it compliance? Is it recruitment and onboarding and selection? Or is it training? And our approach is an enterprise model, and what you see here is our enterprise approach to DEI. So we are all about infusing diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging in every functional unit of an organization. And we've been actively engaged with Tamara, with Heather, and with the team here, and we're excited to share with you what we've come up with so far. So the engagement began with an organizational assessment, and that was back in August of 2021. Time really flies when you're having fun. And so I want to give kudos to the city. So out of 300 employees, we had 179, almost 180 people participate. So that's a response rate of 60%. And for the first engagement, for the first assessment of this time, this is huge. So give major, major kudos to your team, both leadership and both staff, for their level of engagement. We had an opportunity to facilitate focus groups once we have gathered that data. We did the focus groups in February of this year. We had some glitches between, with the pandemic and managing schedules, but we actually did the focus groups live here in City Hall. We facilitated 4 of them. They were very well attended. We had about around 150 team members who participated in those 4 focus groups, the largest of which, and again, want to give kudos to the Public Works Department, because it was standing room only there, and they gave some wonderful feedback. And the way our process works, the assessment gathers quantitative data, and then the focus groups are the qualitative data, and we blend qualitative with quantitative. I'm a California guy, so it's like making a California wine, right? And so we have that perfect blend. And then from gathering both the quantitative and qualitative data, we then were prepared with creating training programs, which we did next. We did training of both leadership and both staff, and that happened in May and June of this year. And again, those trainings were very well attended. We did leadership training as well. Again, very well attended, and kudos to the leadership team for the way in which they engaged and facilitated some really great conversations. And again, just want to give kudos to Heather and her team, and Tamara and her team. And next, we wanted to give, based on everything that we've gathered over the last year, we do have some recommendations on how to move forward to continue the work that you've done. So we believe that leadership is always the opportunity, and leadership is always a solution. So one of the things that we are recommending to the city manager is that we develop a DEI leadership development program. With all the managers and supervisors involved, we've been working very closely with Tamara on structuring that. We want that to be a cohort model that folks can really, again, roll up their sleeves and get into the nuts and bolts of how do we operationalize the work of creating connection, belonging, and safety for others. And always presencing that that's what this work is about. It's really important to underscore that these are not political or partisan conversations, but that this really is engagement. And it's just another vehicle through which the city gets to powerfully engage with both its leadership team and its staff team. The next thing we have recommended is that we want to launch the DEI Leadership Development Program, as well as provide monthly and quarterly reports to the city manager, to the HR director, and obviously to the council, and to relaunch the DEI committee. We are aware that prior to the chief diversity officer starting, that there was Northland Connect? Northland Next. Based on the data that we've gathered and based on the initial training that we have done, we are recommending providing a lot more support and resource to that group, so that group really gets to serve as the champions for this engagement effort. At this time, I would like to pause and see if there are any questions about what we've shared thus far.
Do not see any hands.
Okay.
Carry on.
Well, that concludes my presentation. Again,
Okay.
I just wanted to give major kudos again, both to Heather and to Tamara and to their teams, and to the city for really doing the work. You're to be
This is
commended.
great. Thank you. It was so nice to
Absolutely.
meet you. Thank you. Councilmember Kondo?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was slow on the uptake there with the hand.
So Councilmember Kondo, we're struggling to hear you, so I don't know if you want to lean into your microphone?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Little bit.
Now you can see the forehead, wrinkles on my forehead. Hopefully you can hear me better. I'm just curious, so, clearly you have different subsegments, whether it's M&O or other functional areas. Were you able to kind of slice and dice your data across different functions? And did you see anything unusual? Or were the results pretty consistent?
Thank you for the question. The results seem to be pretty consistent across the board. We did, and we provided to the city manager and the chief diversity officer, disaggregated data of the survey so you can see by department, by various demographics, what the responses were, while protecting the anonymity of the individuals who participated in the survey. And again, what we'd like to see going forward is if we launch the survey again in subsequent years, we can have actually longitudinal data so that we can compare year over year. This is about you becoming your own benchmark. And that's another unique aspect about this DEI program. We're not talking about bringing in a system from Denver or San Francisco or Los Angeles or some other place and superimposing it. This is about the city of Northland serving as its own benchmark. The city of Northland articulating what are the DEI concepts that it holds near and dear to its heart, and then measuring that and tracking that progress. So nothing out of the ordinary, pleased to report, and we're looking forward to more.
Great. Mayor Pro Tem Wolford? And her cat?
Let me see the cat. Animal person here, sorry about that.
Yes, sorry about that. I'm a very excited kitten. So thanks for this presentation. I think this seems like it's a really awesome foundation for the city to be able to move forward. I'm curious, is there any part of the report that can be provided to City Council so that we can have a deeper understanding of some of the questions and some of the feedback that was provided? Because while I really appreciate the presentation, I feel like it's just barely scratching the surface and I want to understand more. So I guess I'm just curious what your perspective is there and what's able to be provided and shared.
From my perspective, everything that we've shared with staff, with city staff, we'd be delighted for the council to review. And you're correct, council member. This was designed to scratch the surface and to pique curiosities and interest, but there's a very robust story underneath all of this data. So I would love for you to have an opportunity to read the feedback from the focus groups and the report that we have prepared for council. So absolutely.
That would be fantastic. I mean, I don't disagree with anything that you've outlined. I think it's a really positive step forward. I just want to understand the deeper dive in terms of where we are as an organization, particularly as we're going into a budget cycle and thinking about, other opportunities and areas that we may need to fund as a council. So Heather, if you're comfortable sharing that, it's something I definitely love to see.
Yes, we'll provide that to council via email.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Anything further?
I do not think so,
Okay.
no.
Well, thank you very much for your patience.
Thanks for your time. Okay, moving into public invited to be heard. This is an opportunity for public comment on any item not set for public hearing. Statements are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Statements must be related to city business and limited to matters of community interest. Joanna, has anyone signed up to speak to council tonight?
Yes, one resident signed up in advance, and that is Mark Bromley from Ward 3.
Okay.
Well, thank you, City Council, for having me. I'm Mark Bromley. Well, I just first want to address the issue about the diversity assessment. I've actually seen forms of this diversity assessment put in place in government workplaces. And I've actually been a person who was actually wrongfully terminated because of these diversity assessments, which incorrectly identify employees because they have usually progressive liberals, Democrats, or people in the liberal arena that want to actually discriminate against Republicans or anybody that they accuse of being racist. Like, for instance, your husband accused me of being a racist. Does he really believe that? Especially when he called me a racist towards Asians when my wife is an Asian. That's completely wrong. And that's what I'm talking about, these diversity assessments. That's an example of it. And when these things happen, what do you do with it? Do you actually just hire employees that are along with the hate agenda of the Democrat Party, and then you just target the poor, the homeless, the elderly, and the at-risk in our community because you don't like them or you hate them because they don't do what you want them to do? Diversity often tends to be social oppression, and I don't think that a diversity assessment is actually fair. When I ran into former city employees that said that they were wrongfully terminated in the past, and it was basically based on their politics. And if that's what we're doing in the city of Northland, to just make sure that you have the people that you want, that's kind of wrong. And I just wanted to point that out. The next thing I wanted to talk about is, seeing that we're going to be talking about art today, I wanted to bring the first award I got in art here in the city of Northland from Leroy Elementary School. It's signed by Ms. Sanders, Dwayne L. Pluckert, the principal, and George W. Bailey, the superintendent. So this is about art in the city of Northland. I had people on the city council ridicule me for my artwork. This is my first award. I got one in 3rd grade, 4th grade, so on and so forth, all the way through college. I've been awarded for art constantly, so this is not the only one that I have. This is just the first and earliest one that I have. So I'm sure that as a principal, you probably gave out a few of these yourself. So, but this is from Northland, and I'm an artist from Northland, and that's exactly what that is. And I brought some artwork to show you that I'm not lying. This is a glass. That's all that is. This is a house. That's all that this is. This is a Tamichi Dome over in Gunnison. That's all that that is. Another one, Tamichi Dome, different style, but it's the same. It's a little volcano in Gunnison. And here's the lions over at the library, a library in Gunnison that we don't have in Northland anymore, that we should have, and we can do that. This is my rendition of Edvard Munch. This is his artwork. This is my artwork in watercolor. And anyways, I have several more. I can show you more if you want more. But maybe what you really want was the fact that the whole comments that were said were about sculpture. You wanted to know if I can actually do sculpture. Well, this is sculpture right here. I'm actually blocking the part that you probably don't want to see because, yeah, he does have one of those. And anyways, this is a bronze sculpture, the first one I made at Western University. Larry Runner didn't want to pour it at first because he thought it was going to crack and break. It didn't. It actually came out perfect, just like I told him it would. And anyways, that's a bronze sculpture. And could I make this larger? Yeah, I could. I could make a lot of things larger and bigger, but artists always need funding if they're actually going to do anything like that. And without the funding, art doesn't actually go where it's supposed to go. And that was the problem I had with the City of Northland's announcement, because they never tell the artists ahead of time, and it seems kind of like a favoritism because you have to have the sculpture lying around in your yard when they do these things in the City of Northland for the art programs. You're going to be talking about it later, the ones that you actually approved. And those artists can only do that if they had the money in the first place to make those sculptures happen in the first place. And they had to know something like what the City of Northland does in order to provide for them to actually create those sculptures ahead of time. And a lot of artists don't get that much time. We get like, what, 2-week notice? That's kind of short notice for a 4-foot tall sculpture that you were looking for. That's a little bit too short on the notices there. And then when the artists get told about it, and then they get a little upset because they have no time to make one, and they talk about it, and then they get teased by, like, Councilmember Brown in a particular city council meeting over arts. Well, that's just abusing the artists that grew up here in the City of Northland. Well, thank you very much, City of Northland. You have a nice day, nice evening or night, whatever. Right.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to council at this time? Please state your name and address and provide your comments to council.
Thank you. My name is Barbara Kirkmeyer. My address is 6100 Weld County Road 4, Brighton, Colorado. And I'm here this evening, Madam Mayor, just to introduce myself. I am the Republican nominee for our new congressional seat, or Congressional District 8. And so having a 20-year background in local government, I know that local government is where it's at and where, you know, the rubber meets the road, things actually get done. And so I just feel it's important that I wanted to come out, introduce myself, let you know who I am. I brought my business card. I'll hand it off to, should I hand it off to your city attorney, who I do know?
Yeah, that's
You know, but again, I just wanted to let you know who I am because, again, I think it's important that, you know, hopefully I will be your congresswoman and that we have a relationship, a working relationship where you feel comfortable calling me and letting me know what's going on, things that I should be aware of, and that we can be able to engage, you know, from a congressional level to the municipality level. Because as a county commissioner, there are 32 municipalities within Weld County. And we were able to have a really good working relationship. And I think that was having that kind of engagement, that kind of relationship, knowing what's going on, how we can work together, get projects done, you know, between a county and a city, were very important for our county and for all of our constituents within that county. So again, I'm not going to give a huge campaign speech. That's not why I'm here tonight. It's really, truly just to introduce myself, kind of break that ice. I want you to know who I am. I want to get to know all of you. And hopefully my cell phone number is on here. You'll feel free to give me a call at any point. Even before the election, if that's what you'd like to do. I'd love to meet with any of you one-on-one and have a discussion about what's going on in your community and what you feel is important for a congressional district. So just want to take a few minutes.
okay. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. It's nice to see you, Corey.
All right, we will move into council communications. Let's see, we will start with Councilmember Whitkovich.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple things from me. On July 12th, I attended the Historic Preservation Commission meeting. And it was kind of exciting because we got to see a draft of the National Register of Historic Places registration form that's going to be submitted here shortly related to Deza Estates. We got an update that the ordinance, Corey and Brooke, I understand, are still working on it. And so I think we're going to get an update at our August meeting, and then I'll be able to share that with all of you. The chair of the commission, Joyce Downing, has decided to put together a subcommittee to update the mission and vision of the Historic Preservation Commission. That committee is going to put together two different options. One is going to is most important if the event center happens. And then, of course, if the event center does not go forward, there's going to be kind of a backup vision and mission. So it's been a long time since that's been updated. So they're going to work on that. And then on July 14th, I attended the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting. At this meeting, we heard the CIP recommendations and the 2023 budget recommendations. Amanda and Jesse did a great job going through everything. They always get me really well prepared for the budget, so I understand all the Parks and Rec items really well. So looking forward to talking about that. And the Parks Master Plan Review update, that project has gone out to bid and three companies responded, and they were all very close. So Amanda and her team are going to interview them, and I believe that will be coming to council on August 22nd. That's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Councilmember Jaramillo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just, we did not have any meetings for NAHF, Northland Arts and Humanities Foundation, but we did have our last, it's the concert in the park. So we had a soul school there, and then we also had our movie, but we didn't have any meetings because that's our time to shine in the summer, where we get to do the fun stuff in the park. So that was mostly that for NHF. I just had a meeting with Pallet Shelter from Virginia, and we talked about some of the stuff that in their NLC capstone, but what we're doing here in Northland, what we can do regarding homelessness. So it was a great conversation. I was there with Councilmember Goff, but nothing else to report tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Condo?
Yes, ma'am. So hopefully you can hear me. If you can't, just motion and I'll get even closer. But between the last time, 2 weeks ago, I've developed a reputation of crashing parties. First of all, I crashed the water yoga class there at the rec center. As most people know, I swim there every morning. And then also on that same day was the Parks and Recs Appreciation Day. So I had the opportunity to meet with Amanda and some of her direct reports and personally thank them on behalf of the city for all the hard work that they do. And I think that's really something that was for me personally very rewarding to be able to meet people. In fact, I met another gentleman, I'm forgetting his last name, but I believe he might be presenting tonight for the theater. So that was very educational. I attended my first North Metro Rescue and Fire District Board meeting. And so that was a great way to get introduced. And of course, Jenny Murphy, I don't know if she's still in the room, but she sits on that board. So I had my opportunity to embarrass myself with them. But again, given my close affiliation with emergency planning, I hope to be able to establish a good working relationship and be able to drive some value there. Two more items, Domino's Pizza opening, which I saw many of you, and I failed very badly with my dough, whereas the mayor did extremely well. So I clearly need to work on that area. And then lastly, one other thing is I did have breakfast with Heather and Councilmember Lukman Hiramasa, and fortunately did not get sick. But you know, I'm doing monthly breakfasts, and I'm inviting other council members to join me, 2 at most, so as to not violate any rules. And I believe Jay and I are on deck to meet with her in the month of August. So again, great opportunity to really work closely with the city manager and have some offline conversations so that government can work better.
Thank you. Councilmember Gott.
Oh, thank you. So July 14th, I represented our DICE board at the Groove, Grub, and Local Gov event on the festival lawn. And we talked to a lot of residents in Northland, and many people filled out our survey. That was great. On July 19th, the DICE board met, and we did change our meeting time from the 3rd Monday of the month to the 4th Monday of the month, so that we could meet here in council chambers and do hybrid meetings more effectively. And at that meeting, we had a report from the Indigenous Subcommittee. We have a connection with the Healing Hoop Powwow, which I would like to invite everyone to come and attend. It'll be at E.B. Rains Park on August 27th and 28th. We also decided that we were not going to elect a treasurer until we have our next election, which is at the end of the year. And I did want to let people know that we do have a Ward 3 opening for the DICE board because we have a person who is leaving the board to do more work in other areas of the city. On July 20th, I did the Domino's ribbon cutting and got to make a pizza. That was really fun. So I encourage everyone to take advantage of it. And this Domino's has a drive-through window. So that was something that they said is kind of new to the area. So give it a try. And again, Councilmember Jaramillo had mentioned that we met with 2 people from the Palette organization to talk about possibilities for housing the homeless. And it's just, we're at the very beginning stages of looking into something, so there's nothing really to report on that yet. And then on July 22nd, the CC4CA Executive Committee met. We mostly debriefed about the retreat we had this last summer. We discussed our lobbying contract and whether or not to renew the people we have currently, or have had this past year, I guess. And then one of the things they decided to change was to have the outgoing president and chair stay and participate in the meetings for at least another year so that we could pick their brains and get all their expertise. And so that was about it. That's all I had to report.
Looking at my people. Mayor Pro Tem Wilford.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My update this week is brief. First, I am sorry that I'm not there with you all in person. My daughter contracted COVID, and so out of an abundance of caution, I am staying home and until I'm able to test for a few more days and make sure that I'm good. On a quick update, I did attend the meeting of this Northland Senior Organization on Friday. I have to say, in all of the meetings that I have attended as a council member, that one was probably the most delightful, and frankly, just full of laughter and joy. It was really wonderful to spend some time with the folks and hear about some of the different things that they're working on. Quick update, they typically do an annual trip. Unfortunately, they weren't able to identify enough folks that wanted to go on the trip this year for a variety of reasons. So they're not moving forward with their 2022 trip, but are in the process of planning for 2023. So I believe they should have information up on their website as early as September and are really planning to go all out. Additionally, I learned that one of their members hosts a genealogy hour every week at the senior center and is very good at identifying members of your family tree. So if there are any seniors out there that want to take part in that, they should definitely contact Kate over at the senior center and she can get them all linked up. But again, just a delightful group of humans and it was a lot of fun. And that's all I have this evening.
Thank you. And I do believe the chief plays games with them on Fridays.
Ooh,
I think, is it all Fridays? I think it might be, well, it's been a couple Fridays already. It sounds like fun. Games with the chief. Yeah. It sounds like fun to me. Okay, thank you. So I'm gonna go quickly through some of the things that are duplicates. So, but I do want to kind of emphasize the new Domino's pizza in North Glen. The staff is incredible. They were so welcoming. They know their business inside and out. They are just so professional. And it does have a drive-through, which I think is going to be really amazing. It's a rare thing for a pizza place to have a drive-through. And they did let us make pizza. And I was praised at home by my teenagers. I did quite a good job making my pizza. But it was also really fun. And it gave us kind of a back of the house look as to how they do their work. And it was lovely. I attended the Dr. Cog meeting. And I'm not quite sure, Councilmember Kondo, if I can correctly summarize that. I felt like we spent a lot of time on process and procedure, and so we sorted out some things. That's all I'm going to say. It was great. And then the Meet the Mayor event, I just want to thank everyone for coming out. The Groove Grub Local Gov thing on July 14th. It was very well attended. The food trucks, the band was awesome. But I had an opportunity to sit down and have lengthy conversations with quite a few residents about what is going well in the city and, concerns, and our team was there, staff was amazing. So just thank you to everyone who helped us host that event. It was just a beautiful night on Festival Lawn. I love that space. So that is all I have this evening. Let's see, Joanna, what do you have tonight?
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing tonight.
Okay. City Manager Geyer?
I have just a couple things for council to be aware of on upcoming agendas. Before I share that, I am getting caught up on email. I'm almost there from being out sick, so bear with me just probably another day or two, and then I should be fully caught up on resident emails. On August 22nd, Michelle Weitzel with Barry Dunn will be making a presentation to City Council on the CCPP assessment. Corey and I have a meeting with her on Friday, so that process is moving forward. I just want to remind Council that's coming forward to Council on August 22nd. Also on the 22nd, there were several agenda items in the works that I've packaged together for that meeting that are all interrelated. So the update in terms of where we're at with the crime prevention through environmental design SEPTED project update. council had requested that I bring back a discussion about I-25 tunnel concerns related to homelessness. And then we had scheduled to have Jessica Holz, our crew program manager, provide an update on where we're at with the crisis response unit and homelessness outreach. We've packaged all of those items together, and we'll be having a robust discussion that evening. So just wanted to provide you with an additional heads up that that evening will be dedicated to the CCPP update, as well as those discussion items around homelessness and the city's outreach. Additionally, we have a joint manager-mayor column for August, which is solely dedicated to the topic of what the city's doing in response to the challenges around homelessness in the city. So once that's put together, it's in draft form right now. We'll push that out to council, so you have that additional information as well. So that's all I have this evening.
Thank you and welcome back. We're glad you're feeling better.
Thanks.
City Attorney Hoffman?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. I was off the grid last week and am still catching up, so I don't have anything to report.
Okay, that's all right. Okay, let's move to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, please open the vote.
The vote is open. Mayor Pro Tem Wilford, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. And Councilmember Kondo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. I will close that vote and the consent agenda passes unanimously.
Here we have 3 resolutions this evening. The first one is CR 120. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution accepting the sculptures known as Raising Old Glory and Dominion and approving the placement of the sculptures.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, Michael Stricker, our Recreation Manager, is here to provide a summary. Hello.
Hello, good evening, Mayor Leidy and City Council. The approval of Resolution 120 would allow the City of Northland to accept the gift of the 2 sculptures that were part of the Art on Parade. They were the People's Choice winners, and they're being gifted from the Northland Arts and Humanities Foundation to our permanent sculpture collection. The resolution would also approve the location of those 2 sculptures. First, the sculpture Raising Old Glory is being recommended for installation at the Eleanor M. Wyatt Centennial Park Sculpture Garden. And then the large-scale sculpture Dominion is being recommended for installation at Grange Hall Creek and Marion Street, which is sort of that northeast corner near the trail there. So the NAHF Board of Directors and staff recommend approval of this resolution. You do have details in your packet of pictures and the maps. However, I would be more than happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Councilmember Wikovich?
Thank you. No questions. I just want to say that I'm really excited about Dominion because I walk that trail almost every single day, and I think that's a great spot. And there's not a whole lot. You've got the Honey Bear west of Washington, but then there's nothing until you get to the dog park. So I'm really excited about this. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Goff?
I'll echo everything that's wonderful, and we're always happy to see, these being placed out in the community. A question I had, which maybe it isn't even appropriate for tonight, but do we have some idea about sculptures in the Carl's Farm dairy area? Is that something for the future?
Yeah, so the NHF has had some discussion around that. City staff has been speaking as well. The trick about that area is there's not a good spot that is city-owned. So when we start looking at putting sculpture on private property, it gets a little trickier. So right now, the NAHF at least has made it a priority to install on public
I
property.
hadn't realized that, so that explains a lot. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that Councilmember Goff and I were thinking the same thing. I also, Michael, I was just curious. I am wondering if there is absolutely anywhere in, it looks like the northeastern part of Ward 2 and the southwestern part of Ward 4 that we could possibly place sculptures. These seem to be the areas, I mean, that section of Ward 4 has absolutely nothing. And I see that we've got Northland High School as well as more elementary. And so I don't know if there are any opportunities to partner with the school district to place some art in that area, because what I see is that there are kind of pockets of large concentration, which I don't know it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just an observation that there are areas of our city that our public arts program is just not reaching. And so I would be curious from your perspective, what we can look at in future years. And to echo Councilmember Witkovich, I love the placement of Dominion. I think that's a really awesome spot, especially along the trail. And it's just a really neat sculpture anyway. So I'm looking forward to seeing that one placed, but would really like to figure out how we're doing more to expand and make sure that our arts program is reaching everyone.
Yes, and thank you so much for that question. Honestly, this is one of the things that the NAHF discusses the most, particularly that area south of 104th, and then the upper northeast corner of Northland. They're really tricky spots because there's not a lot of great spots to be able to put public art on our property. Part of what you had asked is, yes, we have started some conversations with the school district. And so that's definitely an option that's on the table. We're sort of trying to figure out the best way to get there as well. So the Art on Parade program is a one-year sculpture on loan program where everything that's submitted is an already completed piece. Mm-hmm. So when it wins, it could thematically be anything, right? Well, one thing that we're considering as a foundation is what does that mean as far as a commissioned work? If we were to work with the school district, is there a way to get something that's more appropriate for a school property? So it's definitely an option. It is a bit of a puzzle that the foundation keeps trying to put together. We do have a very, very long list. Believe it or not, it's got almost 1,000 locations on it for places throughout the city. And yes, it does have both of those areas. But Councilmember Jaramillo could vouch for how difficult it is. The trick, just as an example, this year, these two sculptures are rather large that are coming into the collection this year. That creates a challenge. So there's a nice little pocket parks here and there, but when you put a giant sculpture in it, it doesn't always work. So that's sort of a long answer for yes, that is a goal of ours. We're just trying to figure out the best approach.
Can I ask a follow-up question, Mayor Leidy?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, Michael. And I guess the other question I had is, are the funds that are used for the sculpture program, I know that they're not Northland City funds, but are they flexible in what type of art can be purchased? Because I love our sculpture program. I don't want you to take away from my comments that I dislike the sculpture program. I think it's a wonderful program, but in 50 years, are we still going to have places to put sculptures? And is there an opportunity to diversify some of the art that we're bringing into the city?
Yeah, another great question. So one thing that the NAHF is going to be doing over the next couple of years is some master planning. So that question is one of the major questions that the NAHF has to deal with. There really are a lot of places we can still put sculpture. Specifically, that's one of the reasons why we picked a sculpture garden, so that there's a density of sculpture, so it becomes a destination. That's sort of one answer. But to answer your question on a larger scale, during that master planning, there is an infinite amount of ideas that we have for the types of public art that we would want to do throughout the city. Get a lot of feedback from residents, from city councils, from the NHF. There really are a lot of options. Thankfully, when it comes to funding, it's all in the ask. So typically, most of our public art is majority paid for by SCFD dollars, so the Scientific and Cultural Facilities District. The only trick with those is that you have to make that specific ask. So we have, for most of the last 22 years, asked for Art on Parade money, but then there have been times like when we opened up the new Parsons Theater, the lobby sculpture that's hanging from the ceiling, that was paid for through the SCFD Colorado Creative Industries, et cetera. So we have that mobility with funding, depending on what the goals are at the time of both the foundation and of the city. So that's how we've sort of tended to live within this sort of sculptural world. We did do, of course, the mural in the I-25 tunnel. We did a mural at the skate park, but another long answer for yes. We're hoping to continue to diversify what type of public art we do. I don't know that necessarily Art on Parade is for forever.
Thank you, Michael.
You bet. Great questions.
Councilmember Kondo.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I need to apologize to Michael or Mike, as I did not remember your name during that portion of that biweekly readout. But I did meet you, and I do want to thank you publicly for getting me a little bit smarter about the arts and the theater operations. My follow question, being a former naval officer, I'm always concerned about public safety. I guess you can say it's kind of bred in my DNA. So Dominion, I love the sculpture. It is dark in color, and of course, being made out of wire and things like that. Is there any given consideration to make sure it's put in a place that, you know, there's some sort of lighting so that nobody actually runs into this thing in the middle of the night? Because I imagine if they did, that would not be a pleasant experience.
Yes, thank you for that question. That is one of the major criteria that we always use, that the Arts and Humanities Foundation uses, as well as city staff, in how we install them and where we install them. So whether it's the RTD light rail station or, you know, Grange Hall Creek or wherever we're putting these, that's always a major consideration. So for instance, with Dominion, we want to make sure that it's really visible, both pedestrian and vehicular traffic. But at the same time, to your point, we want to make sure it's not too close to the trail, so that nobody accidentally, you know, runs into it. Sometimes we actually deal directly with building codes and ADA codes too, as well, and that can help speak to the safety of pieces. So for instance, at RTD, there's a large wall sculpture that's out there, and we had to make sure that it met all of the codes to make sure that it didn't create an unsafe situation. So definitely criteria that we consider.
Councilmember Jaramillo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Michael, thank you so much for all you do. I know how much work you put in. You're awesome, man. You're a great mentor to me, even before I was running for city council. You know, we go back years, me being on the board. I'm very proud of our body of work that we have, and being over $1 million and how much it's valued at. You know, like it's a true asset to the city. It brings a lot of beauty, especially to our Grange Creek. I'm also, it's beautiful. I wish it was in Ward 2 because I love that sculpture so much. So, and it's right by your house, so you're very lucky. But I do appreciate even just having our artwork at Endline, you know, just having artwork there now by Jeff Best. Does fantastic work. And yeah, I just want to say I'm just very proud. And yeah, I just want to encourage people to take the N line too, because it's there. You know, I mean, I've talked to so many people taking Ubers, spending so much money. I'm like, you know what? We have our N line. Let's use it. You know, we have this. We've been working so hard on it for years, and it's got awesome artwork that you can check out too. Some of the best that you'll see along the entire, you know, N line and every other spot. So I just want to say how proud I am of NAHF and all the work that you do. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I very much appreciate that.
Thank you. All right, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Kondo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll close that vote, and CR 120 passes unanimously.
All right, CR 121. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution approving the water sale and delivery agreement between the City of Northland and United Water and Sanitation District.
Move for approval.
Second.
Second.
All right, Tammy Moon, Environmental Manager, is here to provide a summary. Hi, Tammy.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Thank you for having me here this evening. I just wanted to, I'm here tonight to talk about CR 121, which is the settlement and water delivery agreement with United Water and Sanitation District. On May 16th, we came to council in an executive session and informed you that United Water and Sanitation had suggested a settlement agreement with Northland, which would have us selling them a quantity of water in return for them settling out of our FICO Stanley Lake change case. We took your direction and moved forward with negotiations with United Water and Sanitation. And the agreement that we are presenting for your approval this evening is the agreement that Northland staff and attorneys and United's staff and attorneys have agreed upon. Some of the basics behind this agreement. We did propose the 250 acre feet of water at the $15,000 an acre feet as a starting point. So that will be our maximum amount of water that we will sell to United and Water and Sanitation. We also have a descending scale of price and quantity should the amount of water we receive through volumetric limits on our change case be diminished through other settlement agreements, specifically with the state of Colorado, based on what their delivery requirements will be. So this agreement, we will not be receiving any money from United, and we will not be finalizing this agreement until we have a final decree that's proposed and ready to be approved by the state and the courts. A couple other things about this. We did agree upon a delivery time, a delivery window that works very well for Northland. We will not be delivering water to them during the summertime when our demands are high. We will deliver water to them between November and May, which is a lower season and lower demands for us. And any water deliveries that we will provide to them will not take priority over Northland's augmentation requirements. And that includes augmentation requirements that do have to happen in the wintertime. And then the other really big component of that agreement is a peace pact in which Northland and United will not become opposers in each other's cases for a period of 10 years after this agreement is agreed upon and signed, and we're moving forward. This is a pretty typical a kind of agreement and kind of goodwill gesture between the parties. We don't want to do an in perpetuity agreement, as you know, this water supply agreement is an in perpetuity agreement. We don't want to do that peace pact necessarily in perpetuity because there may be the potential for water rights cases that United puts through the court that have the potential to harm Northland in the future, and we want to be able to, at some juncture, continue to be an opposer and do what we need to do to protect the city's water rights. So that's kind of the big kind of overview. Don Frick, our water counsel, is here this evening. I would like him to kind of come up and give you all an overview of how this happens and what the next steps and next process, kind of part of the process is, so that you understand where we go from just this agreement.
Thank you.
Good evening. I think Tammy hit it pretty well there. In terms of process, if you approve this tonight, I believe we will execute it, which then puts a timeline on payment and delivery based on what Tammy said, when the decree is actually entered, and then we'll close on the transaction. Sorry, I was in court all day, and so my voice is not great. And then we'll close on the deal and start delivery and receive the payment. So the only like Tammy said, we have this sliding scale because we weren't totally sure if we were going to have major issues in the case when we settled this and what our actual yield would be. I'm pretty confident that we're gonna lose a little bit of water at the end of the day, but it wasn't anything unexpected. So United was the biggest issue we had in the case, or the issues that they raised. Like say that would have cut us back by 50% or something like that. So at the end of the day, we're selling some water that we really don't have any place for, and we're getting some money to fund other water improvements for Northland.
Councilmember Kondo?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and Tammy, I appreciate you explaining the why we wouldn't want to have that Peace Pact go forever. I guess my concern is, when you look at paragraph 3 there in the background section where it talks about that they will have, infinite or perpetuity access to our water. I think my concern here is that we know that with the water shortage increasing over time, it seems like it would be only fair if there was some sort of clause for a cost of living adjustment or adjustment for inflation or market increases, that sort of thing. I wonder if either of you can kind of talk to that, if you did consider that, and why is that not part of the discussion?
Well, so this is a water purchase agreement, and so it's a one-time deal based on you can't get a market rate the way for this effluent. But again, it's a purchase. It's not a ongoing payment deal. So there really isn't any. We go out and buy water. There's no way to escalate the payments or anything like that. So that's the way we look at it. Is this is a one-time purchase and sale agreement?
So follow up. I mean, when we buy water, is that bound by time? Or is that also a perpetuity sort of access to water?
It's in perpetuity. It's in perpetuity, and that's kind of how it has to work, because if you're going out and acquiring water, it's for perpetuity. I mean, we're not going out and leasing water for the next 10 years. What good does that do us? So any of us in the water business, we're looking for in perpetuity supplies. That's just the way we do it.
Okay. Got it. Just trying to get smarter here about the practice and how.
Oh,
things
sure,
work, so.
sure.
Councilmember Goff?
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm not sure who my question goes to, but we had previously had a presentation about using an aquifer to store water. How does that come into play with this? I mean, are we going to, this water wouldn't ever go into that aquifer?
No, it wouldn't.
Okay.
So here's my question, and I don't even think it's a question. Maybe it's just a statement. And it's more to Heather, probably. My concern is how easily water rights and water purchases and water sales are misunderstood by residents. And my fear is that this could be an easy headline to totally screw up and to confuse everyone, right? Like, water's short, but North Glen's just selling it, like they don't care, right? So my concern is that we communicate this to residents super clearly, because Tammy, you mentioned at the start, we've had 2 executive sessions on this topic. This is the only presentation, and there's a lot of legalese in it. This is the only presentation that's been in a public meeting, and it could really be easily confused. Your very last sentence explained the whole thing, right?
Oh.
It's not water that we need. It's, it's
I
okay.
I think that I've been saying this the last 2 meetings, is the key is that we're not selling drinking water.
Right.
Okay? That's it.
My concern is that that's going to be misconstrued by people that aren't clear. And I'm going to tell you, it doesn't take much for water stuff to be super confusing.
Oh, I know.
So what I would ask is that we do some form of communication that's super simple and super clear, And then possibly, you know, I don't know if a forum is, I just want residents to be able to ask their questions and get them answered, because this could be a hot topic. It could also blow right by people and they won't notice it. But my fear is it will not, and it'll be a headline and it's going to confuse everybody.
Yeah, I think the three main points is not selling drinking water, selling water that we don't have a home for, and using that money to invest in the system to
Absolutely,
improve
right?
the system, yeah.
So how can we get to that in a way that is communicated to residents?
I'll talk with Diane. I think there's a couple different platforms, really using our website as the base platform to push information out. And then certainly figure out what we could push out, on social media. If we need to organize something like a forum, certainly we can do that, but I think it could be as simple as, if you have questions, reach out to Tammy. And then certainly Diana can do the interface with local media and make sure there's understanding around what this is and what it is not.
And it doesn't sound like it's the time right now, because we're not there yet, right?
No, and I guess I'll just throw it out there too. Maybe the time's right for when you all have some time and we can do I still want to sit down with you all and better educate you so that if you do get questions, it's easier for you to answer that.
Great, that was all I had. And we got a thumbs up from Councilmember Kondo. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, no problem.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Kondo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. I will close that vote, and CR 121 passes unanimously.
All right, moving into CR 124. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution supporting the Regional Transportation District Zero Fare for Better Air Transit Program.
Move for approval.
Second.
So this came through the Metro Mayor's Caucus. We have a Transit and Mobility Committee, and they were asking all of the local municipalities to promote this zero fare for better air in August. And so everyone is doing it reads like a proclamation, but it is a resolution. I don't need to read it out loud, but you can see it. And we're going to be doing the next mayor's monthly minute from the train to promote this as well, because we want to encourage, just as Councilmember Jaramillo mentioned earlier, it was a great tee up for this one. We want to encourage our residents to be using transit, but specifically this N line. And it's free for the month of August, which is super exciting. So I wasn't sure if anyone had any questions. Councilmember Goff?
I just kind of want to make a couple comments. First of all, I do ride the N line. I go to the Rockies games to make use of it. And I do encourage anyone of our residents who haven't tried that yet, please do so. It's just much more relaxing to sit on the train than it is to drive. But the other thing I want to say is that I have run across research that suggests that this kind of a program is not as helpful as you might think, because if people can take public transportation from where they are and take it to where they want to go, they'll pay for it. I mean, not everybody, but they're not usually unwilling to pay for it. So suddenly making it free is not always helpful, because if it doesn't go where you want to go, it doesn't matter if it's free. So I just wanted to make the comment to RTD or anyone else out there, whoever's talking about doing these sort of things, that we really need to do more than just this.
Oh, absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with you, and I would say everyone does. You're totally right. I think the two pieces, one of them, I think it's one of these whereas in the document, is focusing on August in particular because of the increase in ozone and the heat and all of that. And really, trying to protect our air as much as possible. And then, yes, I we have a monthly meeting with our RTD directors. And this comes up a lot. We're trying to get routes reestablished. And I will say, I really do like our RTD directors. They are working very hard to make change and to bring back lines and to make sure that, that everyone can afford it. And yet, it is one other industry that we hear a lot of. We can't get drivers, we can't get staff, and so they're struggling. But, you know, they're working hard. I have appreciated the work that they're doing. So this is, you're right, a very small piece, but I support the resolution. I think we should give it a go. Any other questions or comments? No? Okay, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Wolford, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Kondo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. We'll close that vote, and CR 124 passes unanimously.
Okay, we have a discussion item tonight, Police Department Strategic Plan. Looks like we have Deputy Chief Darlin with us and Commander Waltz. Welcome.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. Let's see what we get here. There we go. Tonight, we'll start kind of bringing forward our strategic plan. And the goal today is just to kind of give you an overview of what our plan looks like as we move through the next 5 years. And also kind of wrap that into how it coincides and works hand in hand with the city's strategic plan, council strategic plan that was done in 2019. So as you look at our strategic plan themes, it breaks down into 4 main focused areas: communication, leadership, operations, and staffing. And within each one of those broad goals, you see kind of an overarching goal. For communication, we want to improve our communication transparency and collaborative efforts, working with our co-production policing model to engage, inform, and empower our community partnerships. For leadership, we're looking, to build on the organizational structure that promotes ethical and professional leadership, committed to enhancing trust in our community and transparency in our public safety methods, right? When you look at our operations, our overarching goal is to employ individuals with an intrinsic desire to protect and serve by embracing competency, character, and shared community values, really closely, tying to our vision statement and our mission statement within the department. And when you look at our staffing goals, we want to develop and implement an innovative recruiting strategy that identifies qualified and diverse team of officers for the community, and really officers that are committed to protecting the community as a whole. When you look at our communication, it really is focused on not just our communication, but it lends to all the other goals combined. I didn't know I had flying stuff. That's great. So the communication goals and objectives, we're looking to identify innovative pathways to increase outreach. Within each one of our overarching goals, we have several other goals and objectives within that. And that's what we'll go over, as we walk through this. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to stop me and ask, and we'll go through them one at a time, or you can ask questions at the end, however you guys want to proceed. But each one of our overarching goals has subcategories and has objectives that we're looking to reach, right? And here, our goal is to identify innovative strategies, pathways to increase outreach and communication with our community members. And our objectives were identified to hold 4 war meetings annually, on crime trends, public safety issues, other community concerns, right? One of our goals is the chief will submit quarterly articles to the Connection. This is one of the objectives we have under this goal, which we're doing. Public safety information, public education, different communication tools to, again, outreach to the public, provide that education and provide, just that transparency so they can see what our department is doing on a regular basis. Market in-house communication tools, which is our Twitter and our Facebook, our social media platforms, as well as our NPD website. We're always working with the community to try to really have them use our resources so they're getting the most accurate, most up-to-date, most reliable information. Because we all know the game of telephone is just an ugly game that turns into, mistruths, half-truths, and complete untruths by the time we get the information back, right? And then to develop communication, public service announcements on an understanding the NPD and policing in general. And that's really focused on CCPP. Our goal there is to work with CCPP to help us identify from the community perspective what they're looking at and what they want to know about policing so we can have that really honest communication with them and how we're going to interact with the community and with the public so that they can see what concerns they have, what concerns the public has, and they can bring that to us, be that liaison, and work with us in identifying what those issues are and how we can bring that message back out to the community. So as you look at our goals, we want to establish meaningful engagement strategies that support Northland's diverse community, right? So establish quarterly community meetings with CCPP, and that's really, again, that focus on that diverse perspective from the community, that internal reach for CCPP within our department to really kind of have that connection with the community. Partner with the DICE board, which is, a focus on identifying issues and concerns for marginalized members of the community. Engagement with the community youth and annual police school events, our softball, kickball, basketball events. And a lot of these communication strategies, we're already on a lot of the communication. This was one of the areas we really jumped on quickly and felt that it was imperative that we make strides in this particular area to show that transparency, to show that outreach, and to build the community partnerships that are really necessary for community policing. And as you look through these particular pieces of the communication strategy, a lot of them have been done, right? We've held those 4 public safety meetings already this current year. We've done kickball with the kids at the end of the last school year. We'll plan that again for the next school year. We're working on those chiefs articles quarterly now in our paper and in our community communications, right? The things we still have to work on are our CCPP pieces and our partner with the DICE board on identifying those concerns of marginalized individuals within our community. But this was an area where we jumped on a lot of these strategies very early to try to build that kind of foundation of community policing. When you look at our next goal, it's to create that robust infrastructure, two-way communicative pathways to collect, assess, and disseminate the evaluation information, right? So it's utilizing Access Northland, to gain knowledge regarding what community complaints there are, to provide quarterly reports on top identified issues, providing education and training for our officers, in-service training for our line officers, and how to utilize NPD communication tools to inform the community. So encouraging our officers to also be part of our social media platforms, how we communicate with the public, making sure they're aware and part of that outreach. And then to develop an informational card that promotes the two-way social community platforms, which are, again, our social media sites, our Twitter, our Instagram, and our Facebook. I'm sorry, we don't have an Instagram. Our Twitter and our Facebook. And then our webpage. And we have that on some of our business cards for our staff, but we're working towards making sure that that gets put on all of our officers' business cards. So it's not just a communication back to that officer, but also an outreach to say, hey, here's all the different ways that we communicate with people. Please use these, focus on our social media pages, and then here's all the dots so that we can get that outreach to the community in every time we touch them, right? Because we're always given the business card, and we felt that that was probably one of the most effective ways to move that ball. When we move into leadership, our leadership team is very focused on our internal development of our officers, but also that commitment to the public, right? If serving is below you, leadership is beyond you, is very, very imperative to our leadership process. We want to make sure that our leaders serve our officers and the community It's not an either or, and it certainly isn't one preferential over the other. We want to make sure that our leadership team works together in that regard. We want to develop an outline informational process to build community knowledge. And a lot of this stuff already accomplished. Hold a Citizen Academy, we did that this year. Hold a Teen Academy, we did that this year. We never got to the Spousal Academy, we'll continue to work on that. And a lot of people ask, why is the Spousal Academy important? It is really important for our officers' families to understand what our officers go through so that they can support our officers when they're home. It's really, having a work-life balance and having a supportive family is absolutely crucial for this profession. It's a very difficult profession. There's a lot of ups and downs within this profession, and having that family structure and that knowledge of how police officers work and how things work in their daily work life is really an important piece to that. Work in collaboration with CCPP on identifying 4 specific processes of interest to the public and outline them and kind of report that back out to the public. It's one of our goals. We haven't quite gotten there yet, but that's an objective that we're looking for. And the purpose of that is the community often has unanswered questions on why do the police do something this way? Why do the police have this use of force policy? Why are cameras utilized? Why aren't cameras utilized? Different questions. So when we can obtain that information through CCPP and then come back with public safety announcements for the public and public safety information and present that to the council meetings or to the public in different public meetings, I think that's going to be a way that we can work to identify real connection between the community and the officers and community and just policing in general. A lot of policing is a mystery to the public, and this is one of our ways to try to have that, to open up that curtain and show them, exactly how we do things and why we do them that way. And then work in collaboration with the city communications department to, market that piece and that information to the public and educate the public. And when we work with them, the goal is, again, just that large amount of outreach, because just the police alone isn't enough. Our connections and contacts aren't enough. We need to have that kind of marketing, the way we market our events and our other public avenues. We're looking to hold 3 department-wide team building events. This is really about morale within our agency. It's continuing to build that family atmosphere. The best way to achieve goals is through teamwork, and these are team building events, morale events, type of events that bring us together, but also bring us together with our officers' families, outside of a work environment, to try to create that family atmosphere that I believe Northland is famous for. When I came into this organization, it was one of the things that was first espoused to me, and it was one of the things that I truly liked about the agency is that we do have a family atmosphere. Everybody knows everybody, and everybody shows a caring hand towards everyone in the agency. And getting to know the kids and the family members, and that's a real important part of what we're doing. Implementing quarterly employee recognition programs. We're working on taking our letters of recognition, which is one of our lower level awards that would normally be done at the award ceremonies, annual award ceremonies, and bringing those into a quarterly process within the organization so that there's more regular occurrence of recognition for the officers in their good work, along with the kudos board that Commander Waltz kind of put together that we put right outside the briefing wall so that officers can come in and out of briefing on a daily basis and see the good work that their fellow officers are doing. And it's mainly consisting of compliments that are sent in from the community members, thanking them for helping them on whatever issue they had, or it can be also something that another officer writes for another officer based on something they saw that was good work that they observed one of their fellow officers doing. And that's been received well within the organization as well. And then implementing an employee pride program. This is still on the works. We haven't gotten quite to this piece yet, but the goal is to put forth an employee of the month, build on that positive culture, and that family culture, and get officers to believe that our work matters. This job is stressful. It's difficult. You kind of see all the negatives that society has to bring when you're an officer. And oftentimes they don't see the result of the work, right? They don't get the conviction. We don't get the prosecution. They don't get the end result where it's satisfactory to them. And you gotta make the officers understand that their work matters, even when our intervention was immediate and it maybe the subject wasn't convicted of the crime, or the individual is someone that we constantly have contact with and there's additional problems. But, getting our officers to understand that their interactions and their investment in what we're doing matters is a big piece of our success. So that's part of our employee pride program. And then establishing, that personal impact on our department members. That's that family structure, again, that they have support. They have the support that they need from their family. They have support from the department. We're utilizing our grant for our mental health for our officers in those circumstances where officers need additional assistance from the mental health professionals. So we're utilizing those tools as pieces of that as well. When we look to reinforce our goals and objectives, reinforce ethical and professional culture through proactive and consistent positive leadership. So this is our meetings with our sergeants to really develop them and set very clear expectations for what our goals are within the organization and what ethical policing is. So we're working on that. We're trying to do that on an annual basis 3 times a year. And then hold those informational meetings for staff focused on that professional culture and on that ethics in policing. As well as publish an internal information report. This is kind of an outlying goal, future goal, where we're giving that report on our complaints and on our outcomes of those complaints when officers receive, complaints from citizens on performance and on conduct. We want to put out that report internally so the officers know how many complaints do we receive a year? How many compliments do we receive a year? What are the outcomes of those complaints? So that they have a peek behind the curtain on that as well. Many of the officers have no idea how many complaints there are within the department on an annual basis, and they oftentimes have no idea how many compliments there are. Unless they're the one receiving a compliment. But as a whole, for the organization, they're not clear. And again, transparency for the public is a piece of what we need to do, but transparency from the internal aspects of the department is equally important. The officers have to feel that connection, and they have to see their own agency in action so that they feel comfortable, confident, and supportive of all the tasks and goals that we have. So through the community co-production policing strategies, we want to develop focused public safety pathways, designate 8 hours of training for all our employees on current community policing philosophies, identify individuals who will become expert and champions community-oriented policing, develop programs with the CCP in mind to help us identify complaints and discuss those complaints. So we want to work with the CCPP on unresolved or cases of complaints and positive feedback as well. So when we get complaints that it's not that it's unresolved in the sense we don't know whether or not there was misconduct, but unresolved with the citizen, right? They're not satisfied. That happens oftentimes, right? They're unsatisfied with the outcome, but us to have another look at that to see how we can improve our communication back to the citizen, have that open transparency so CCPP can see what those look like, as well as the positive feedback that we get so that they can see the compliments our officers receive as well. When we move towards, I got another fly in here apparently, when we move towards our department operations and procedures, again, the overarching goal for this is for the Northland Police Department to employ those intrinsic exceptional character officers so that we can do the best job we can for the community. When you look at the focus here, it's really technology driven. That's where we're going to make the most improvements in our operations. And it's to implement technology and system analysis that will provide that data collection and the methods that will enable us to really focus on intelligence-led policing within the organization. So it's really focused on assessing the current analytical process, hiring a crime analyst, which I can happily say we have done, and we'll start on August 8th. That was a long process, but we do have someone onboarding on August 8th. We're looking forward to that. Establish the necessary analytical information to guide command staff in implementation of intelligence-led policing. And when we really look at that, it really focuses on daily crime reports, patterned criminal activity. Oftentimes, people think of patterned criminal activity as burglaries and robberies, which Northland doesn't have a tremendous amount of those. I'm sure there's some patterned activity in there, but motor vehicle theft is the patterned crime that really will be affected by this type of analysis. We have a lot of motor vehicle theft crime in Northland. It is a patterned criminal activity. In the past, it was less patterned, but currently the trend right now is that it is a very patterned activity. Same offenders, similar vehicles, so we can tie those type of things together. And then report repeat offender information, which is, information very good to use for any type of patterned criminal activity, as well as task force intelligence sharing, which, again, that's a key element in our fight against any kind of narcotics activity in the community, and our CMAT motor vehicle theft activity within our community. One of our focused objectives is to develop and implement the procedures for the crisis response unit, which we've been focused on for the last year, right? We've been working with the city manager's office on this for over a year now. It's to create that policy and procedure that guides the crisis response unit in collaboration with the patrol division, and train the officers and the members on the newly established corresponding policy. We do have a draft policy that we're working off of currently. We're in the process of finalizing that. And then the training the officers, that's been an ongoing process the entire time. Working with crew, expanding it slowly. They're starting to work with our officers, ride with our officers, respond to calls. We are now actually providing them information from the officers directly on individuals that they've come in contact with that need that assistance, both on the people experiencing homelessness level as well as mental health calls. So we're making those referrals now to them on a regular basis, right from patrol. And then establish the reporting procedures to conduct preliminary evaluations of the collaborative impact of this particular program, the crew program, right? We want to be able to see if it's impacting calls for service, case management, high volume 911 users. Are we starting to see, and that's going to be the data-driven piece of this, right? We need the data collected and we need to review it to see if we're, having that kind of effect that we're hoping to have. Whether or not we're getting decreased hospitalizations by members, and then whether or not we're actually decreasing the amount of time our sworn officers spend on mental health calls that really don't rise to the level of a crime that was committed. So that data-driven piece is going to be a big part of what we use to evaluate whether or not the crisis response unit is functioning the way we want to, whether or not we need to tweak it, and how we can, manage that from that perspective. Establishing an investigative process that provides enhanced public safety through competent and capable comprehensive response to crime conditions. And that's a lot to say, improve our investigations. Make our officers understand the importance of the training they're receiving and how they work with the community to develop their case, right? And we are very young in the patrol division. Our officers are learning every day. They make a mistake here, or you got to do this too, and we send them back out. Okay, you got to do this piece of the investigation. You got to do this part of it. But establishing that training and kind of creating that culture within the organization that, hey, thorough and complete investigations are the way we affect crime in Northland, and bringing that, to the youngest officers, that's a big lift, actually. It's not a small task, it's a very, very large task. You learn from experience on this job. There's not a shortcut. You make mistakes and you learn from those mistakes, or you train through your issues. And that's one of our big goals, right? And then just establishing clear expectations for the officers during their initial or preliminary investigation, so that they understand exactly what their goals and objectives are. This is an area where I've seen tremendous improvement over the last year. Established communication channels and feedback loops between the Patrol Division and Investigations Division. So a great example is when the police department was in this building, they were all shoved in that little room, right? All in that corner. There was no escaping each other. They all knew each other. They built relationships. They all had that interaction on a very, very daily basis. Believe it or not, a set of stairs in the Justice Center between investigations upstairs and patrol downstairs, and the turnover of our agency now being our most experienced officers being in investigations and our new young officers being downstairs, they never actually worked together, right? We've had 3 years in that building. They never worked together. They weren't on patrol together. They didn't have that relationship already established. And it's imperative that they have those relationships. So we have been utilizing briefings and different options where the officers come upstairs for training for a day. They come out of the patrol role and come upstairs and train with detectives for a day so they can see their job and understand their role and what does filing a case look like? What kind of questions are asked by prosecutors? These steps are part of what we've done to build that culture within the officers in different positions, right? In different positions within the agency, special assignments. And we've used that process fairly successfully in the last few months. There is almost zero briefings where I don't have multiple detectives, crisis response unit members, and victim advocates in every briefing we go to. So that process has been very effective for us to really build on that piece. And then our final one, staffing, recruitment, and retention, which has been just tremendously difficult over the last few years. This is the actual brochure we use for North Glen. We have it in both English and Spanish. Our focus is to develop and implement innovative recruiting strategies to increase our qualified and diverse applicant pool. Not an easy task. We're struggling to hire officers. We're not getting the applicants we used to get. I can tell you that in Chicago, I took the test with 35,000 other applicants in one day. In Chicago right now, they're getting 500 and 600 applicants for a job opening. They're doing multiple applicants in a year. Here, we're doing multiple applications in a year, and we're getting 20, sometimes 30, sometimes a few less per application process. Just sheer numbers, when you do statistics, that's not a great opportunity to hire. Out of 30, you might hire 2 to 3. 2 to 3 would be actually 10%. It'd be 20% would be pretty good, but it's not that good. So when you get 10 applicants, if you get 1 or 2 out of that, we're pretty happy with that by the time we get them through the process. But we're looking to partner with our local and national businesses, our military, which is one of the areas we get a lot of applicants, and our faith-based communities to identify and implement focused recruitment, as well as working with the CCPP to identify our marketing strategies for this, and how that would look as we have outreach to the community. I know every opportunity that the chief and I get to talk at our public events where we're out, we're always trying to recruit, from within North Glen itself, right? Because when we bring in our community members, we know we're getting that person that has the values that our community has, and that really helps us. But we're looking to implement a pre-hire coaching program for prospective identified recruits, identify pathways to enable immigrants to meet the requirements to become a police officer, and to implement an employee referral cash award program. And that's really for our lateral and post-certified officers, but also new recruits. Our officers are great ambassadors for our department, right? They know us. They know what it takes to become a police officer. They know what they have to navigate to successfully get through our FTO program and get through our training program and actually become a full-time officer in the city. So they are great ambassadors for us. And we want to reward that. So when they can go out there and recruit our next officers, that's a benefit to us. We really want to develop a purpose-driven and attractive opportunity to retain an exceptional workforce. And these are kind of long-term strategies, but I'd love to just thank the city manager because she handled half of this for us this year. The focus was to determine if employee salary benefit packages can be revised to be more competitive with surrounding agencies. That salary program or consultant firm is doing just that for us right now. So we're going to get that piece of information back. And this piece of our goal will come to fruition, at least for the short term, right? For the short term, it'll be there. And we can develop and implement a short-term rotational assignment for our specialized units. And that is focused on our detectives, our traffic specialists, our CMAT detective, our community resource officers. Those positions are specialty assignments within our agency. And one of the things I heard when I walked in the door here was, hey, we want more opportunity within our own agency. The larger agencies have full-time SWAT teams. The larger agencies might have K-9. Some of the larger agencies, have full-time bike officers. We don't have the staffing that allows for that, but producing and developing short-term rotational positions so that they can get into these experiences and identify, hey, is this something I really want to do? Or am I better suited for traffic? Do I want to be in investigations? Do I have an opportunity to be a community resource officer, community relations officer? How can I best serve the city of Northland as a police officer? And getting through some of those positions and creating them so that we can get more officers through those positions so that they can really see what advancements they have available within our agency is critical. Units assigned to our task forces. We've talked about that with our Metro Task Force, our Drug Task Force, and our CMAT, those type of external, internal pieces are specialty assignments that our officers really look forward to. And then analyze the feasibility of implementing additional specialized assignments, which we've done one of already. That was a CMAT that I brought earlier, or late last year before council. So this is stuff like Safe Streets, which is really focused on warrant offenders, violent offenders, and Raven, which is a regional anti-violence enforcement team, which may have some connections to Northland. I can tell you that our last few shootings have had some nexus to gang activity, not in Northland specifically, but gang members from the surrounding areas. And those type of things, having that regional task force intelligence is very helpful in solving those investigations. And then promoting a culture of pride and professionalism within the department and pushing for that through our leadership program. And, it's expanding the mentor program for our field training officers, our sergeant FTO program. We've put together initial steps of that, our training booklet for our sergeants, but creating a full FTO program for that's one of our goals so that our sergeants get consistent training as they move through our positions. And then successful leadership, a succession plan for our leadership. Lieutenant Lauk and Sergeant McNeely, just graduated from Northwestern's command school. We have Lieutenant Rice scheduled to attend the FBI Training Academy in the winter, this January. So building that succession plan for Northland Police Department is really, really an important piece of what we're trying to do. So that as the command staff turns over in the years, because we're all getting older, and that's just, gonna happen, that next group is ready to step in. They have the training, they have the leadership knowledge, the courses, and the experience to step right in and keep the department moving in the direction it's moving without a hiccup, without a stop, without a slowdown, but just kind of keep everything moving the way we want. This is a completely redone slide. That one we already went through. And then how this works with our strategic plan from the city, right? So the city's strategic plan was introduced in 2019. Council's plan had 8 priority areas, including public safety as one of them. Under the public safety plan, it really focused on 4 key areas: improving real and perceived community safety, increasing pedestrian and roadway safety, completing a police department staff and operations assessment, and recruitment and retention of officers. A lot of those are either identical to what we're looking at in our strategic plan, and ours really just kind of builds on it, or it's very similar and they're kind of intertwined and mirrored in each other's, in the objectives and goals. So when we look at the plan, you can see the city's plan provides for the roadmap to accomplish, our NPD's plan really focuses on the roadmap to accomplish the goals. Both plans focus on the implementation of the 360 assessment. Both plans focus on our staffing issues and staffing needs, and then both plans focus on the recruitment and retention of our officers. When we look at real and perceived community safety, communication, I think, is our biggest weapon here. Perception does become reality. So us being able to communicate with the public on a very regular basis, those 4 ward meetings where we're straight up coming out and telling you, here's the public safety issue, here's where we're seeing difficulties, you know, that transparency to let everybody know what is going on. But then to build that two-way communication platform where we're identifying, hey, come here for information so that you know what the real story is and you know what the real crime statistics are and you know when an event occurs in the community that you can get information on our website, on our social media sites, and get legitimate information that you can share with your neighbors and discuss the real public safety issues. That's key to us truly changing what that perception is, because without that communication, we can't change the perception. That is what causes that perception or misperception on what our safety is in the community, right? So it's increasing that social media platform, really having those quarterly connection articles, body-worn cameras, in-car cameras. That really drives that accountability piece and that transparency piece within the agency and within the community. You know, they've seen that. We've been talking about that piece quite a bit in our communications, and it provides us with unbiased eyes, right? That's really what it is. It's an unbiased eye on what's going on as the police interact with the community. And then to increase our community outreach through public meetings, our 4 ward meetings, we did that this year, our CCPP meetings. I know we're on a little bit of a hold right now, but we'll get that back up and moving. And as we do, we'll continue to build what that looks like and how we can have that interaction with the community and how CCPP is going to be that bridge. And then the training piece, training our officers on community-oriented policing, providing officers with crisis intervention training, NIBRS reporting, what that X number is. So the way crisis training is designed is it's a voluntary program. They don't want officers forced into crisis training, and they don't want brand new officers in crisis training. Officers need to learn things before they go into crisis training. They need to learn general policing strategies. So we send our officers as they become aware of the need for that training. Usually they want an officer to be through their FTO programs and through probation and a couple years on the street so that they have some experience when they come in into this training, so that when they run through the scenarios, they can see what failure is, and they can see what success is. So currently, we're pretty close to having all of our FTOs through this program. We have one sergeant that really drives the training for our supervisors. But there's no fixed number, and I don't know that the department will ever be 100% training in that, but that's the goal, right? The goal is to get our entire agency through that training and to really understand the importance of that training. NIBRS reporting, we're on this already. We're reporting through NIBRS now. All the stats we gave through our public safety meetings identified NIBRS as the platform we're using. And that's just that consistency-based training. So we're seeing crime the same way all the other communities in Colorado and even in the United States are. And when you look at the progress we've made, we've implemented that traffic unit. It's ebbed and flowed over the last couple years for good reasons, right? The 2 traffic officers we had in there initially were both promoted to sergeant. We've put 1 new traffic officer in there, trained 3 additional, and we have 1 lateral who will be joining the agency within the next couple weeks, who will be a traffic officer in there. And that individual officer coming out of Thornton is a training, motorcycle training officer for the state of Colorado. So he'll be able to additionally maintain our training and our proficiencies within that unit for us. our no need for speed program, and then, our focused enforcement with the traffic team on high traffic areas, school zones, and high crash locations. Those are our focus on the traffic enforcement unit, which we've seen good success on as far as our enforcement activities are concerned, seeing some improvement in our crashes, and some improvement in our school zones. And then our implementation of our co-response program, again, working in conjunction with the city manager's office on this. We've achieved this. Are we at our final position? Absolutely not. A lot to work on still here. But the implementation of it is going pretty well. The team is finally full strength. That group of crisis response team is full strength. We have all of the candidates hired now. They're moving through the process of their training. We're working together. They're embedded with us in the building, and those relationships are strong. Reorganization of the police department. That's been done as part of the 360 assessment. We've reorganized, added the deputy chief position. It says passion up there. It was supposed to say position, but I am very passionate, so it's perfectly,
Perfect.
right, it's perfectly placed up there. Adding the lieutenant's positions, that's been done. The three lieutenants have all been placed. They're all operating in patrol and investigations. They're doing a great job. And that's adding that middle management mentorship for our supervisors and providing that pathway through our organization to continue that development. In the current year, we added the training sergeant. Next year, our budget request, you'll see an additional sergeant for the internal affairs, all part of our 7-year staffing plan that has already been brought in front of council. And then adding traffic unit officers. Our recruitment and retention piece, we've talked about our outreach to the community. We have already engaged our materials in multiple languages. We're utilizing English and Spanish, focusing on recruitment from military, faith-based organizations, and then really working on our FTO program to make sure that we maintain those officers. We do have a very rigorous FTO program. Not all of our candidates who are hired and get through the academy get through our FTO process. It's a challenge. We have very high standards, very high expectations. And this is a busy little city, and sometimes it's a little bit too fast and a little bit too much for officers. We really work to slow it down, give them extra time if necessary, but we won't curve those standards. They got to meet them, right? So we've had some loss with officers that haven't made it through, but that our goal, and it's really an absolute imperative to keep that standard. And then our command staff supervisors and specialty assignments, all pieces of recruiting and retention of those officers. We want to make sure our candidates feel like they have an opportunity within our organization to move, not just up the ranks, because not everybody wants to be a supervisor, nor is everybody, capable of being a good supervisor. However, that doesn't mean they can't be a great detective, they can't be a great traffic officer, they can't be someone that works on our North Metro Task Force or is incredible at, identifying stolen cars. So giving that option so that everybody kind of has a space in our agency, really, really important. And with that, I will turn it over for questions.
Councilmember Goff?
Thank you. Well, first of all, I just wanted to say I was really impressed with thoroughness of this plan and the sort of realization that when the patrol officers are on one floor and investigation on another, that you were missing some communication pieces there because, we always hear in the news about these cases that go to court and then the investigation wasn't done properly and so then, nothing can happen there. So that's very disappointing. So I was very pleased to see, the thorough analysis of that. But my good question was, because this is something that the DICE board has brought up a couple of times and we haven't really figured out how to work it through, is the partner with the police department and the DICE board. And so my big question is just like how, if you get to the point where you're planning on how that could happen, I'm very interested in trying to figure out what that would be because, it's going to take more time. Maybe we're having trouble envisioning what the procedures would be.
Sure. And What that's going to look like is going to be a work in progress. Our work with the CCPP board has been challenging, right? So I envision it, our work with the DICE board seems to have gone, like, not the police department's work, but generally the work with the DICE board has seemed to go a little bit smoother, right? It's gone in and we've had some success out of the DICE board relatively quickly, where we haven't seen that out of the CCP as cleanly. But I envision us having a similar relationship with the DICE board, where we can have meetings with them, bring them into CCPP meetings, and have that connection so that, again, they're a voice to us from the community and a voice from us back to the community. And then utilize that relationship in ways that can help us recruit, can help us identify, what part of the community are we not reaching out to? What marginalized individuals in the community or groups in the community are we not communicating with well? And then working backwards to build those kind of pathways, right? Exactly what that's going to look like, don't know yet. That is not one of the goals that we've achieved just yet, but that's my vision. I think that's the chief's vision, is to work in a manner similar to the CCPP board, to work and bring them into the CCPP process and have them be that other set of connection for us to the community so that we can identify, one, where are we missing? Who are we not outreaching to? Two, clarifying so that they have very good transparency into the agency, because that's always a concern for marginalized communities. We don't see what the police do, and we don't feel that they police us the same as they police other communities. So having that voice and that communication is going to be a piece of what that looks like.
All right, great. What do you want to do too?
So I have a couple of things. First of all, I saw the celebration board and I think it's so fun. I was there when you were installing it, but also a couple weeks later, and there's some celebrations up there, and that really, I think it's a great idea. Lovely. And I also really appreciate the focus on culture, because highly effective organizations, that's what they do. And so that's genius. And so I love all of the strategies that you have outlined there. I had a couple of questions. The first one is, when we sort of lose FTE to either a task force assignment or a military assignment, how do we fill that?
So they're difficult. So when we fill task force positions, we do that very purposefully, right? We do not have to be a part of the task forces, right? They're great morale for our agency, and our officers truly want to be part of those because it gives them additional training, additional opportunities, but they're very purposeful. If we don't have the staffing to fill one of those, we can not fill it. We can hold the position back until we do have the staffing to fill it. We did that with CMAT, right? We could have joined CMAT in January. CMAT was open arms, come on in, we're happy to have you. But we just didn't have the staffing ready yet. So we waited until July 5th to actually send that officer. We have 2 officers at the task force right now from North Metro Drug Task Force. At times we've had 1. So it depends on, they're very purposeful. There is not a lot we can do with the military deployments. When an individual is deployed to the military, we have to provide that opportunity for them. They have to be, they're allowed to go. We have specific rules with HR that we follow to make sure that they're using their certain amount of days, and then they may go into a no-pay status if it's a long deployment or anything like that. But there's not a lot we can do, right? There's not an instant fill. We don't have somebody just lined up ready to take that officer. We manage that from the staffing we have. We may shift officers. As a matter of fact, we just had a military deployment. We pulled someone from Graves and put them on days because that was where that officer was. That's where the shortage was. Clearly, that's our calls for service. We have a much higher call volume for calls for service on days than we do on Graves. So we will backfill in that way. And we're constantly managing our staffing in that way. That's done. So we do bids on an annual basis, but we move officers monthly, weekly, whenever we need to. We will reassess allocation of resources based on something like that, or even FMLA. We have individuals who go out on FMLA for a myriad of reasons. And, we have to make sure that we readjust our staffing to manage that. And it's not like, we can just hire somebody and plug them in. That's not possible. So we manage it that way.
Okay, thank you. And then I noticed I had written down, collaboration with the event staff. And then I saw on page 12 that you have as one of the goals to work in collaboration with the communications department. I know I'm interested in seeing that. And I believe it's a personal focus of yours to make sure that, you're part of the planning of events, especially to make sure to keep them as safe as possible for the community. But it came up for me at the Groove, Grub, and Local Gov event in the sense that we are advertising, come see elected officials, and then the police department is unaware that we're having an event. And I don't know that they were completely unaware, but at the mayor's one on the 14th, there was nobody there. There was an incident. It was handled by staff, which was nice. And an officer arrived at the very end, like things were closing, and just made the comment like, oh, hey, I didn't even know this was happening today. And I was like, ooh, that makes me nervous. Not that I felt like I needed protection or I wasn't safe, but there was an issue that made me go, oh, this is a little odd. We are advertising that there's going to be people in this open space. But there's also, sidestep, there's also the opportunity for the community policing and the community engagement at those events as well. So I wasn't quite sure if that was all in that one bullet or.
So yes and no. The answer is kind of both. Yeah. So we want to work with our communications department on a myriad of issues. We want to have broader outreach to the community, right? And just using our social media pages isn't enough, right? We need outreach through that's more really directly focused to the community, not just the people who come to us voluntarily, but that outreach in ways that isn't voluntary. So that's one piece of that. Working with our different events, we do have a great working relationship with communications on that, but we certainly have improvements to be made. And while maybe command staff and our supervisors had knowledge that there was an event that day, maybe not every officer on the road had that communication. So that's also part of our plan, the communication internally. It's actually quite a struggle within our organization to keep that community, getting our officers engaged in that email process and really looking at that stuff. It's very, very challenging when you're as large as we are. Even though it's a small department from my mindset, it's very difficult to get our officers to consistently make sure that they are on top of every single little thing that we're sending out. And you can over-inform as well, because then it becomes less effective because we're inundating, and they're human beings and they will minimize what they can minimize, right? So if I can skim through some things, I may miss some important information. So it's a piece that we're working on internally as well, to make sure that we're having that successful communication, and in the briefings where we're making sure that those events are being, pushed out to the officers so they know, hey, we do have an event here. And even if we're not going to staff it specifically as a dedicated officer, it still needs attention for that district officer so that they know, hey, something's going on over there and they can manage it. So that piece of the communication is internal, and it is still part of our communication goal, but it's not really tied to communications with the city. Those are internal.
Got it, okay. And the other thing I was thinking is, when we think about and so it is kind of collaboration with the city, I think, is when we're thinking about direction we need to take with our park, direction we need to take with the tunnel. Is there an opportunity to also put that on the radar? So just a quick example, the night I did a ride-along was super quiet. I know they're not all quiet. Everyone kept apologizing. So sorry, it's so quiet. I'm like, no, I'm good with the quiet. But I wondered about on an evening like that, because I was able to spend the full 8 hours, which I love. Is there a way to weave in swinging by the parks, swinging through the tunnel, adding, and maybe it's already there, I just didn't see it that day.
There are pieces of it already there. We continually have special attention locations within the city based on issues we're having, complaints we're having, crimes we're having. But this really falls back to the data-driven policing piece of this plan, right?
Okay.
And it's really a focus on us utilizing that crime analyst to identify where do we need to spend our time when we're not chasing the radio, when our officers actually say, it's slow tonight, I'm sorry if it's great, it's slow, here's where we need you to be. Here's where the data tells us. This is where our focus should be, right? Because we're seeing car thefts and we're seeing burglaries or robberies, or we're seeing a lot of shoplifting in and around a specific location. Well, okay, great. Let's make sure our officers spend more time in those areas. And that's really that data-driven piece. And that data-driven piece doesn't come specifically from or only as a sole source from our crime data. It also comes from our community complaints. It comes from our CRM. It comes from our communications internally with the city, with council, and with our parks and recreation people. We're constantly in communication. So it's internal communication there as well. So that's that data-driven piece. So we've been spending a lot of time in the tunnel for that reason, right? It's the communication piece that we're seeing that type of issue over there, right? We've seen the complaints on the park, and we're changing our strategy for that type of a deployment when our officers are not engaged in calls for service. So that's really a piece of the data-driven policing more than anything else. But it's, again, one of the reasons we focus so much on communication and really jumped on those pieces first is because we really feel that that's our biggest bang for our buck and our fastest partnership building. And that's why that's one of our bigger strategies, and why it's probably where we've seen the most progress is in our communication pieces.
That makes perfect sense. I love the data-driven. That's really great. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Wolford, just saw your hand.
Yeah, hi there. Sorry, my internet went out, so I'm joining via my phone. And so that meant that I missed part of your presentation, but I just wanted to quickly thank you. I feel like this strategic plan is just really well laid out. It's thorough, it's thoughtful, and it's really exciting to see everything down on paper. And I imagine that it's going to be a document that continues to grow over time. I just have a couple of questions for you, so bear with me. And if you did already share this information, I apologize. But first, I was curious about where officer mental health fits in with your strategic plan. I don't think I saw anything in the plan regarding ways in which, you all were going to continue to support that particular aspect of our officers, especially when we think about retention.
So it is a piece of officer retention. Also, our focus on our leadership piece is our wellness for our officers. And we have a grant currently that we're utilizing to fund that particular service for our officers when there's a necessity for it. And we're pushing that as a piece of our retention and our leadership process for our sergeants and our lieutenants and our command staff, so that they can make connections with the officers, all the way down to sergeants, and even our officers can bring that to our attention. And we have that service available. We have a grant funding for it currently, so that we can send officers to those type of services anytime we need to.
Awesome. And I didn't see that in the strategic plan. So if there's an opportunity to write that down and talk about it more, because if and when grant funding runs out, then I hope that that's a conversation you can come back to Heather with, or to City Council with, because I think it's just so important to make sure that our officers are well and able to have time and space to process some of the difficult things that you all move through in shifts and every day. So just one piece of feedback there. And then I was also curious, this may be separate from the strategic plan, but are officers able to participate in the volunteer program that council approved previously?
So they would be, as any city employee is. So they would be allowed to do that, yes.
Okay, cool. I wanted to make sure, because I know that you all are doing a lot of work in terms of trying to figure out how to continue to build relationships with the community, and any opportunity that folks have to get out and volunteer, I think goes a long way in terms of building relationships and goodwill. I guess on that point, thinking about ways in which the department is continuing to do community policing, cultivating relationships, and, just really building relationships. I noticed that, there are a couple of things under that bucket, mainly around, holding ward meetings, which I think were really great, doing quarterly articles, and then also continuing to do some of the events with our young people. But I'm just wondering, like, I feel like there's always more opportunities to deepen relationships with the communities, and the ones that I saw outlined in the strategic plan feel like they're familiar, right? They're things that we're already actively doing, and so it feels really easy to tick the box. And when I think about a strategic plan, I think about how are we going to stretch? How are we going to grow? And so I guess I just want to challenge you and the department to think about other ways that you can stretch and you can grow when it comes to deepening relationships. And that's not a commentary in terms of you all aren't doing the work. It's just a challenge. One of the things I would have loved to have seen is build relationships with faith leaders, or, thinking about other ways that we can continue to engage with young people that aren't just, basketball or kickball, right? Those one-off things. And so I guess that was just a little bit of feedback, and you don't have to respond if there's nothing there, but again, not intended to be negative.
No, not at all. And we do have work with our faith-based organizations, and that's part of our recruiting plan as well, to work with our faith-based groups on that particular. We have a really good relationship with our mosque. We have officers that are involved in processes with the mosque on a very regular basis. Additionally, with our 2023 budget plan, we requested 5 additional COPS positions, and one of those COPS positions would be a dedicated SRO to work with our community schools again. And one of the places we see a real opportunity is with our SROs. Our SROs aren't just in the schools as a protective measure. They're building relationships with those kids every day, and bringing in that next SRO, that additional one that's a dedicated position, that will be associated with the grade schools. And again, the sooner we can build that relationship with the kids, because primarily our SROs, while we do have one that manages the junior high and they all have assignments to the elementary schools, the majority of their time is spent with middle school aged and high school aged kids. So us moving into that role where we can put those SROs into the elementary school as well, moving in that direction. Again, one more opportunity for us to build those relationships early and really continue to develop that. And as we get in relationships with the kids, it provides that opportunity to bring the parents and the rest of the family into that process as well. So it is absolutely on our radar. It's a part of what we're trying to do, and the faith-based communities as well.
Awesome. And my only feedback is, if you can you just capture all of that? Because everything you said is fantastic, but I feel like it's not 100% explicit to somebody, like me, who doesn't work in your department every day. And as I'm reading through that plan, that was the piece that I felt like I was missing. So if you can write that down, I think that's fantastic. And I just, again, really appreciate the work that you all did to put this together. The last question I have is, how often are you hoping to update this plan?
So the plan's a 5-year plan. We have, if you look at if you actually go to the plan itself, the appendix section kind of has, goals. And you can see that we've checked some of those boxes and we've, moved through some of those goals, but you can also see we've missed some of them. We haven't, we set very robust, very aggressive timelines on this to try to move the ball. And some of it we have already achieved, and some of it we've missed goals and deadlines, and we'll continue to readjust those deadlines and readjust those goals as we move. So this is actually a continuous process. It's not going to be updated, annually or biannually. It's continuous, and we're going to try to meet those goals, readjust them as we go. We're going to go through it in the department quarterly to try to see where we're at and what we can do. So it's a plan that will provide a lot of flexibility as we move forward. So if there's a need to hasten a goal, let's get to that quicker because we're seeing that need tremendously, kind of present itself, then we'll move that deadline. We'll move that goal so that we can try to get to those accomplishments sooner. And we may push goals off because we're tied up doing other issues that are more important. So it's a constant flowing document, and the best way I can answer that is that it's not going to be updated on an annual basis, but it's kind of continual quarterly. But we would certainly be willing to bring it to council anytime council wants to, get an update.
Awesome. That sounds great. And I guess I should have given you the reason I was asking that question is because I was looking at the appendix and I really liked the flow of it, but it only showed me 2021 through 2023. So that's why I was like, where are we going from here? So it's good context to know that this is going to be a living, breathing document. And I just really appreciate your work and laying out a vision for where y'all are going in the future.
Thank you.
I just want to piggyback on Mayor Pro Tem. I appreciate that you elevated mental health. And even though you spoke to it, I do think it's a great idea to include it in some intentional way in the strategic plan, since you are doing so much work. It's just very, very important.
Yeah, but we can add that in there as one of the objectives. Yep.
That's key. Okay. Any other questions or comments from council? Yes.
As I was looking through the appendix, and maybe it fits under another heading, but I didn't see the developing a strategy or whatever for communication with the sites. So I just don't want that to be forgotten because it's not on this.
I took my list from this list.
It's
so
on page 11.
Page 11.
Yeah, it's objective 2 on a biannual basis.
Oh, there
meet with
it
the
is.
cities.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, you
This,
got it.
there's just so much to read.
There's a lot.
Yeah, no, it's a lot. And I built everything. When we built this plan, this was a plan we built in conjunction with Barry Dunn and the process that we went through with the entire command staff, and even CCPP came in and joined us in this process at the time, was to go through and identify those objectives, but then identify timelines for those objectives. So if it's one of our goals, it's definitely in the objectives.
And, I was figuring it would be under goal 2. I don't know why. It must be late, and I just didn't see it. So thank you.
This is incredibly thorough, though,
Yeah.
and I really appreciate your presentation tonight.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Fantastic. I don't see any. Thank you
Thanks.
for your time. Good to
Yes.
see you. All right, this is a second opportunity for public invited to be heard. I don't see anyone in the audience. Joanna, is there anyone online?
Nobody that I can see.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session pursuant to Section 4.5D of the City of Northland Home Rule Charter for legal consultation and advice regarding, number 1, protocols for workplace violence, and number 2, public records issues related to anonymous complaints.
So moved.
Do you want to switch?
Second.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Mayor Pro Tem Wilford, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Kondo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. I will close that vote, and the motion to adjourn to executive session passes unanimously.
We will adjourn to the executive session.